Brace yourselves. What's on your grocery list today might be missing tomorrow. With shifting global markets, unpredictable production challenges, and skyrocketing demand, some essential groceries are becoming harder to keep on store shelves. As we move past January, certain everyday staples could vanish from your pantry options. In this video, we'll uncover the 6 specific items most likely to be in short supply and what's causing these shortages. Don't wait until it's too late. Stick around to prepare and stay ahead of the curve. Let's dive in before the shelves are empty. Once on flour and baking supplies. Flour and baking supplies might seem like pantry staples you can always count on, but recent trends suggest otherwise. A perfect storm of global challenges is putting these essentials at risk, and the situation is more serious than you might think. If you enjoy baking or rely on these items for everyday cooking, it's time to pay attention. One of the biggest culprits is the ongoing global wheat shortage. Extreme weather events in major wheat-producing regions have taken a significant toll. In the United States and Canada, drought conditions have severely impacted wheat harvests, drastically reducing supply. Meanwhile, Europe hasn't been spared either. Heavy rains and flooding in countries like France and Germany have delayed harvesting and damaged crops, creating further disruptions. On top of that, geopolitical tensions are adding fuel to the fire. The conflict in Eastern Europe between Ukraine and Russia, two of the world's largest wheat exporters, has significantly reduced wheat exports. This has sent ripples through global markets, creating volatility and tightening supplies. The result? Higher prices and less availability of flour in many parts of the world. But that's not the end of the story. Transportation and shipping issues are making matters even worse. Global supply chains are under tremendous strain due to increased freight costs, port delays, and a shortage of shipping containers. Even when wheat is harvested and processed into flour, getting it to store shelves is becoming increasingly difficult. Add to that a shortage of truck drivers, and it's clear why grocery store shelves aren't as stocked as they used to be. Labor shortages are also hitting hard. Flour mills and food processing plants are struggling to operate at full capacity due to a lack of workers. This means less flour is being produced, leaving consumers to face reduced supplies and rising prices. And let's not forget the ripple effect. When flour becomes scarce, other baking essentials like yeast, sugar, and baking powder often follow suit, as they're frequently packaged and transported together. Rising energy costs are another factor driving up prices. The milling process requires a significant amount of energy, and with energy prices climbing worldwide, the cost of producing and packaging flour has skyrocketed. Farmers are also feeling the pinch, with higher costs for fertilizers and crop protection materials, making wheat production more expensive than ever. As if these challenges weren't enough, consumer behavior is exacerbating the problem. News of potential shortages has triggered panic buying in some areas, with people rushing to stockpile flour and baking supplies. This surge in demand has created even more strain on inventories, leading to empty shelves and frustrated shoppers. So, what does this mean for you? If flour and baking essentials are a regular part of your grocery list, it's time to plan ahead. Consider buying these items sooner rather than later to avoid getting caught in a supply crunch. Stocking up responsibly now can save you from the stress of last-minute shortages and rising prices down the road. 2. Dairy products, especially butter. Dairy products, particularly butter, are facing an uphill battle when it comes to supply and affordability. And the reasons behind it are more complex than they seem. If you've noticed butter prices creeping up or limited stock at your local grocery store, you're not alone. A combination of production challenges, rising costs, and shifting consumer trends is putting butter on the endangered list, especially as we head into the new year. At the root of the problem is a global milk shortage. Since milk is the key ingredient in butter production, any dip in milk supply has a direct impact. Farmers worldwide are grappling with skyrocketing feed costs for their dairy cows, making milk production increasingly expensive. To manage these rising costs, many farmers have reduced their herd sizes, resulting in less milk being produced overall. This reduction trickles down to butter production, leaving fewer tubs on store shelves. Adding to the complexity is the seasonal nature of milk production. During the colder months, cows naturally produce less milk, just as demand for butter skyrockets. Think about all the holiday baking and festive cooking that happens in the winter months. Cookies, pies, and rich comfort foods all rely heavily on butter. When demand peaks during this time and milk production dips, a gap is created that leaves consumers facing shortages or paying premium prices. Labor shortages are another major roadblock in the dairy industry. From milking cows to processing milk into butter, skilled labor is required at every step. Unfortunately, dairy farms, processing plants, and distribution centers are all struggling to find enough workers to keep operations running smoothly. These labor gaps lead to slower production lines, delayed deliveries, and reduced efficiency, making it harder to keep butter readily available in stores. A waste of skilled labor borders that previously bordered on blind spots and difficulties between the sky and the street still survive. On top of this, the growing demand for plant-based alternatives has shifted resources within the industry. While more people are opting for dairy-free butter substitutes, traditional butter production has slowed as manufacturers juggle the production of both. This shift can result in fewer resources being allocated to producing real butter, leading to understocked shelves for those who prefer the classic option. Transportation and trade challenges are also adding fuel to the fire. Many regions rely on imported dairy products, and global trade tensions have created bottlenecks in shipping. From container shortages to rising freight costs, the logistics of transporting butter across borders have become increasingly complicated and expensive. Countries dependent on imports face longer wait times and inflated costs, leaving consumers with fewer options and higher prices at checkout. So, what does all this mean for you? Butter isn't just a kitchen staple, it's an essential ingredient for countless recipes, especially during the colder months. If you want to avoid sticker shock or empty shelves, now's the time to act. Stock up on butter and other dairy products while you can, and consider freezing some for later use. It stores well and will save you from scrambling during a shortage. By planning ahead, you can ensure that you won't miss out on your favorite recipes or face unnecessary stress when supplies dwindle. 3. Rice and grain alternatives. Rice and its grain alternatives, such as quinoa, millet, barley, and buckwheat, are becoming harder to find, and the reasons might surprise you. With global pressures ranging from erratic weather to rising fertilizer costs and even shifting consumer diets, these staples are facing significant challenges in availability and pricing. If rice and grain alternatives are essentials in your pantry, now is the time to take action before they vanish from store shelves. Rice, a staple for over half the world's population, relies on stable weather for healthy growth. Countries like India, China, and Thailand dominate rice production, but their output has been hit hard by extreme weather events. Flooding in some areas and drought in others have reduced crop yields significantly. For instance, Southeast Asia, a major rice-producing region, has seen harvest delays and poor quality rice due to unpredictable weather patterns. Adding to this are export restrictions by major producers trying to stabilize their local markets, leaving global buyers scrambling for supply. As rice becomes less available, people are turning to alternatives like quinoa, millet, barley, and buckwheat. But these options are not without their own issues. Take quinoa, for example. Grown primarily in Peru and Bolivia, quinoa farming has faced environmental challenges. Over-farming to meet global demand has led to soil degradation, making it harder to maintain high-quality yields. Farmers are struggling to keep up with this demand while balancing sustainability practices, and this strain is beginning to show in reduced supply. Barley and millet, popular for their nutritional benefits and gluten-free properties, are also facing trouble. Barley serves a dual purpose, as food and as a key ingredient in beer production. When barley harvests fall short, competition between food and beverage industries drives up prices and limits availability. Earths.com. Meanwhile, millet, primarily grown in Africa and India, is highly dependent on small-scale farms. These farms are vulnerable to climate shifts and market volatility, making millet supplies inconsistent. Buckwheat, another sought alternative, has its own set of challenges. Grown largely in Russia, China, and parts of Eastern Europe, it's susceptible to geopolitical issues like export bans and economic sanctions. Buckwheat's high nutritional value and versatility make it a favorite for gluten-free diets, meaning any disruption in its supply quickly leads to shortages and price hikes. The situation doesn't stop there. The logistics of transporting and storing grains add another layer of complexity. Grains are often shipped in bulk across continents, but global shipping issues, such as rising freight costs, container shortages, and port delays, have disrupted their movement. Storage conditions are also critical, as grains are vulnerable to pests, mold, and spoilage. Any mishap in storage leads to significant losses, further tightening supply chains. Finally, growing consumer demand for diverse and nutrient-rich diets has amplified the problem. With trends like gluten-free, paleo, and low-carb diets on the rise, alternatives like quinoa and buckwheat are flying off shelves faster than suppliers can replenish them. Bulk purchases and stockpiling by consumers have created regional shortages, making it even harder to find these staples. If rice and grain alternatives are a part of your diet, don't wait until the shortages become severe. Stock up now to ensure you're prepared for potential price hikes or empty shelves after January. Grains are versatile and store well, so filling your pantry today could save you time, money, and stress down the road. Or canned tomatoes and tomato products. Canned tomatoes and tomato products are kitchen staples that many of us take for granted, but they're at serious risk of disappearing from store shelves soon. These pantry essentials, like canned tomatoes, tomato paste, and sauces, are vital for making pasta sauces, soups, stews, and countless recipes. However, the perfect storm of production challenges, increasing demand, and rising costs is putting these products in jeopardy. If you use these items regularly, now is the time to act before they become a luxury. The biggest challenge lies in the production of tomatoes themselves. Tomatoes used for canning are grown seasonally and harvested at peak ripeness to ensure the best flavor and nutrition. However, erratic weather patterns, including prolonged droughts and scorching heat waves, have wreaked havoc on tomato yields in major growing regions like California, Italy, and Spain. These areas, known for their ideal tomato-growing climates, are now experiencing crop losses that directly affect how many tomatoes can be processed and canned. Compounding the issue is the increasing global demand for canned tomatoes. More people are relying on these products for their convenience, longer shelf life, and versatility in recipes, especially during months when fresh tomatoes are scarce or expensive. This growing demand has put additional pressure on manufacturers, many of whom are already struggling to keep up due to limited supplies. Supply chain bottlenecks are adding fuel to the fire. With global shipping delays, container shortages, and higher transportation costs, it's becoming more challenging to move these products from processing plants to store shelves. Even after the tomatoes are canned, they still need to be transported efficiently, a task that's been complicated by labor shortages and rising fuel prices. The result? Longer wait times and fewer options for consumers at the grocery store. Packaging is another hurdle in the production process. Canned tomatoes rely on aluminum for their packaging, and the cost of aluminum has skyrocketed in recent years. Combined with increases in the price of labels, adhesives, and other packaging materials, manufacturers are facing higher production costs across the board. These costs are often passed on to consumers, meaning you could see a steep increase in prices even if the product is available. Labor shortages within the food processing industry are yet another challenge. From harvesting the tomatoes to operating canning facilities, the entire production chain requires a significant amount of manual labor. Many facilities are struggling to find enough workers to maintain regular production schedules, leading to delays and reduced output. Additionally, the canning process itself requires large amounts of water and energy, both of which have seen rising costs and tighter regulations in recent years. For those who depend on canned tomatoes and sauces for cooking, the thought of a shortage or a sharp price hike can be concerning. These products are incredibly versatile, allowing you to whip up everything from hearty stews to zesty pasta dishes in minutes. To avoid scrambling when supplies dwindle, consider stocking up now. Canned tomatoes and tomato products have a long shelf life, so they're an excellent investment for your pantry. Retrofit. 5. Frozen vegetables. Frozen vegetables might seem like a reliable, long-lasting grocery item, but they're facing significant challenges that could make them harder to find in stores after January. Whether it's your go-to bag of broccoli florets, mixed veggie medleys, or that trusty corn for quick side dishes, frozen vegetables are in high demand, and the systems supporting their production are struggling to keep. One of the biggest obstacles is the heavy reliance on cold storage facilities. Unlike shelf-stable goods, frozen vegetables require specialized refrigeration at every step of their journey, from processing to distribution to retail shelves. Unfortunately, these cold storage units are maxed out, creating a bottleneck that delays shipments and limits the amount of inventory producers can handle. With more goods than storage capacity, the supply chain slows down significantly, leaving grocery stores with fewer frozen options. Adding to the issue is the technology behind flash freezing. Frozen vegetables need to be processed immediately after harvest to lock in their flavor and nutrients. However, the advanced freezing equipment required to do this is prone to breakdowns, and recent supply chain issues have made it difficult to source the necessary parts for repairs. Compounding the problem, there's a shortage of skilled technicians available to fix these systems quickly, which means production plants are often left idle longer than usual. This slowdown directly impacts the volume of frozen vegetables making it to market. Another surprising factor is shifting consumer demand. While frozen mixed vegetable packs used to dominate the market, there's now a surge in popularity for single-in bags like spinach, peas, and green beans. The processing plants aren't always equipped to pivot quickly to meet these changing preferences, leading to an imbalance in what's available. As a result, some vegetables are overstocked, while others become nearly impossible to find. Climate disruptions are also wreaking havoc on the availability of frozen vegetables. Countries like Spain, Italy, and China, which are major exporters of crops like peppers, spinach, and green beans, have faced unpredictable weather patterns, from droughts to excessive rainfall. These extreme conditions often lead to delayed harvests or crops that don't meet the strict quality standards required for freezing. If the vegetables don't freeze well or maintain their texture and flavor after thawing, they're deemed unsuitable for the frozen food aisle. Trade policies and tariffs further complicate the issue. Recent increases in tariffs on imported frozen vegetables have made it more expensive for retailers to stock them, particularly from international markets. This has placed more pressure on domestic production to fill the gap, but it's not always enough to meet consumer demand. The result? Higher prices and fewer options at your local grocery store. Frozen vegetables are a lifesaver for quick meals, adding nutrients and variety to your diet without the hassle of prepping fresh produce every time. But with rising production costs, storage limitations, and shifting consumer trends, they're becoming a hot commodity. If you rely on frozen veggies to simplify your cooking, now's the time to stock up. 6. Peanut butter and nut butters. Peanut butter and nut butters, staples in pantries everywhere, are facing a whirlwind of challenges that could make them harder to find and more expensive after January. From unpredictable weather to soaring production costs, the factors driving these potential shortages are more complex than you might think. Let's break down why now is the time to stock up on your favorite creamy or crunchy spreads. First, it all starts with the nuts. Peanuts, the backbone of peanut butter, are primarily grown in the southeastern United States, with Georgia, Alabama, and Texas leading the charge. But these regions have been hit hard by extreme weather, including severe droughts and erratic rainfall patterns. When the harvest suffers, not only is the quantity of peanuts reduced, but the quality also declines. High-grade peanuts, the kind used in your favorite spreads, become scarcer, directly impacting production. The same story plays out with other nut butters. Almond butter depends on California's almond crops, but the ongoing water crisis in the state has significantly reduced yields. Almond trees are water-intensive, and with water restrictions tightening, farmers have been forced to scale back production. Cashew butter, which relies on cashews sourced from Africa and Asia, faces its own set of hurdles, including shipping delays and logistical bottlenecks that make it harder to get raw nuts to processing plants. Once the nuts are harvested, the next challenge lies in processing. Transforming raw nuts into the smooth or chunky spreads we love requires specialized roasting and grinding equipment. However, many nut processing facilities have reported equipment shortages and breakdowns, with repairs delayed due to supply chain issues and a lack of skilled technicians. Labor shortages across the board, from farm workers to processing plant staff, have only added to the slowdown, with many facilities operating at reduced capacity. And it doesn't stop there. The demand for peanut butter and nut butters has skyrocketed over the last few years, fueled by their reputation as nutrient-packed, shelf-stable essentials. Popular diets like paleo, keto, and plant-based lifestyles have also driven the craze for almond, cashew, and other premium nut butters. This surge in demand has outpaced production capabilities, creating even more strain on an already stressed supply chain. Packaging is yet another obstacle. Peanut butter and nut butters require durable jars, often made of plastic or glass, to maintain freshness and prevent oil separation. Unfortunately, there's a global shortage of these materials. The resin used for plastic jars and the glass needed for premium packaging are both in short supply, leading to higher costs and delays. Pair this with skyrocketing freight costs and port delays, and you've got a recipe for disrupted supply chains and price hikes. Finally, consumer behavior has amplified the issue. As whispers of potential shortages circulate, shoppers are stocking up on peanut butter and nut butters, emptying shelves faster than retailers can restock them. This bulk buying creates artificial demand spikes, making it even harder for producers to stabilize inventory levels. If peanut butter or almond butter is a must-have in your pantry, don't wait until the shelves are empty or prices soar. Stock up now to avoid the frustration of searching high and low for your favorite spreads. Whether it's for a classic PB&J, smoothies, or just a quick spoonful straight from the jar, you'll thank yourself for being prepared when these tasty essentials start disappearing after January.